For some years, recently, the JRPG conversation was all about persona. Character designs, soundtrack, the look of the series are common reasons listed for its success. But those elements all exist in the dancing games, the fighting game, the 200 hours of anime adaptations. Those have their fans, too. But do those things surpass or improve upon the source material? What is it about these RPGs that sticks with people? They've got the same basic mechanics as every EXP grindfest released since the 80s. Those mechanics get mashed up with elements from visual novels, but slapping good game genres together doesn't always result in success. So where is the rug that ties this room together? Oh, it's on the wall, over there. The calendar. Certain actions performed in the game cost time. And it's clear from the outset. The plot, the tone, even a glance at the box indicates that the game will have an ending, and nothing can change that. It might be sped up, delayed, or complexified based on player choices, but the expiration date is inevitable. The series lay dormant for some years, and maybe it was that lapse of time that inspired someone. So let's look at how these particular games utilize this calendar system that hangs over everything. Persona 4. There is nothing to do for these people in this town. Repetitive daily tasks grind away at motivation. Repeated effort is required to finish a book, improve a skill, catch a fish. God, I've tried to catch this fish like 5 times already. Just give it to me. The standout moments in the plot, full of magic and murder mystery, they feel significant because they exist against this plain and grounded world. Characters' boredom leads them to lash out. Intimate relationships start just as something to do. People learn, grow, and win small victories, but none of their success comes from brilliant maneuvering, or even their magic powers. They make new friends and change the hearts and minds around them by being persistent. Often they win a boss battle and can't even figure out what to do next. All they can think of is to go back to their daily routine until something else changes. The adult world bears down on them, and all they can do about it is wait. But what does one do with all this waiting time? The game's pacing is carefully balanced to make players think about this. There's no accounting for taste, and some players find the plot here too slow. But the rhythm of this game is something unique. A tense dungeon crawl and difficult boss fight, followed by a flurry of dialogue, suddenly gives way to quiet. No deadline. No next quest. Not even a do 10 random tasks until the plot comes back. The game simply opens up and presents players with an indefinite number of days to explore. This loose structure kills that gamer urge to optimize everything. Sure, there are stats and social links to choose between, and there is a pending boss fight with a deadline sometimes. The game rewards optimization in these moments. But for half of the game, there is no ticking clock. Relaxing feels natural, even earned. Well, I don't have anyone to talk to today. How can I pass the time? I don't have school. I don't have anything to kill. Screw it, I guess I'll just try the fishing minigame. That is a sign of something bigger going on, because whoever cares about the stupid fishing minigame? So many games have them. Sometimes they have good game feel, real challenge, genuine rewards, but who cares? They don't relate to the rest of the game world. When there's a giant monster on the horizon to headshot and backflip on, who is going to stop and mess around in a lake to find a stupid fish? It's just filler that makes players feel clever for a moment. if they bother. But in Persona 4, the action-packed moments blend seamlessly into these quiet ones. The script and the game systems take the time to enrich both of these halves of the game with equal amounts of flavor text, visual detail, humor, and humanity. The shopkeepers never factor into the plot, but their little eccentricities are a tiny story that unfolds with each visit on the way home from school. Unnamed fellow students might fade into one another, but their running commentary becomes familiar. Lazy summer days become infinite possibility. When action and danger do rush back into the fore, it feels significant because quiet time actually takes time. This is where Persona 5 completely misses the mark. The game is fun. Capital F-U-N, genuinely. Comparing the game feel of 5 with its two predecessors is like comparing this sandwich to this one. It's not even close. If I can be 90 hours into a game, hitting the ice sky with the fire spell, an obvious thing every JRPG has made me do countless times, it should feel boring and forgettable. But with these animations, these sound effects, oh yeah, give me that again.
All right.
Those game designers are doing it like no one else. And the storytelling, too, is great. Sometimes. The game has all the elements of success, but do they gel together? The highlight moments of the game are so overstimulating that the parts in between feel like nothing. Not quiet time, but white noise. A clattering subway ride, yammering sidekick, a stupid group text that can't be silenced. God, just let me turn off notifications. I already know what the plot is. The line graph of how much I care about the anime gang in each game looks something like this. The reason for that isn't just the writing itself, it's the fact that the calendar system has become obsolete. Game sequels always have feature creep. To justify the cost of entry, the game must have more stuff in it, right? So the game system becomes overloaded. Not only does the game have many ways to spend time, it has tons of little filler activities that don't cost time. Well, they cost your time, but not the protagonist's time. You understand. The game's most heavily criticized individual problem is when Morgana railroads Joker into doing something instead of what the player actually wants. This is usually criticized as a restriction of player freedom. But what it really is a character hitting skip on the game's playlist. The plot has to be more exciting, like a movie, and so time gets cut out of the game world, like movie editors do. But without that downtime, there's no good moment to actually process everything. The stupid group text exists because the game is information overload. It has to constantly recap everything. Even the social links suffer because their good writing has no moment to let everything sink in. Take EY, a great NPC. His little shop, the music, the mechanic where he opens up to Joker only once he proves himself or matches his toughness. Even the UI and the way the game comments on your browsing.
All right, which one? That's what you're choosing? Take your time.
These elements all gel together into an experience. Every JRPG sends you to a shop to click on a new sword, but none of them stick in my memory like his does. Also, I guess he has his own storyline? What happens in that again? EY's social link is a flop. Not because the script is bad, but because it has nothing to do with anything else. It has these ideas of generational conflict and superficial classism that also exist in the main storyline. But what about the experience of helping this guy out? It's a tangent. The side quest acts like this life or death Yakuza drama, but that calendar, it means nothing. EY will stand right there in his spot, just like always, endlessly repeating his dialogue until someone decides to finish his side quest. The pacing ramps from 0 to 60 in an instant and then ramps back down. You can almost hear the car's gears grinding. Ideas and social commentary are something in a game, but they aren't what makes the gameplay experience gel together.
I'd understand if you were a member of the Phantom Thieves. Fighting for the underdogs, like a gentleman thief, you know?
Persona 5 feels much like the bestseller sandbox games that dominated the market during its development time. It's energetic, loaded with content, but for all its hours of running time, it leaves such a little lasting impression. Having played the entire game twice, if asked what I remember most clearly, 1 dungeon, 3 characters. Even the recurring tagline of the game reflects this problem. Take your time. Take your time? When do we say that? When time doesn't matter. Yeah, go ahead, take your time. This game is going to feel exactly the same for the next 75 hours, so you do you. Oh dear, it seems this game has a carefully balanced set of mechanics and that overloading it causes problems. Sure would be a shame if someone went and made them even longer to sell more copies. Alright, to be fair, the expanded re-releases of each Persona game deserve detailed analysis about which features enrich the game and which clog them up, but let's leave that for videos that look at them in depth. The main issue with Persona 5 Royal is that it adds so many shortcuts, so many resource generators and flashy, complicated side activities, but they have no lasting consequences. They make the world feel even more vapid and not worth saving. Persona 4 Golden also spoils its world building. The sense of melancholy in Inaba gets ruined because all these comedy scenes and side activities mush up the calendar. Individually, they're fine, but they break up those quiet periods and make the world feel just as hectic and loud as the big city games do. The re-releases have merit, but for anyone trying to decide which game to play, I sincerely recommend the first versions. The latter versions are fun on a second playthrough. They're more like a victory lap. And honestly, Persona 5 Royal works best because that game is all about being an overpowered superhero anyway, so why not have the most content to luxuriate in? You know what Persona game re-release had the most thoroughly integrated, best use of the calendar out of all of them? Oh yeah, the game that invented the mechanic in the first place. Even though it's the oldest and in millennial nostalgia territory, I played it for the first time 15 years after its release, and I experienced it after experiencing the other games. So for what that's worth, here's how this game uses time. The calendar is hanging over everything in this game, literally, not just as a UI element. It's easy to forget about, but its constant presence is intentional. Nobody thinks about the health bar underneath the face that's talking to the camera in most RPGs, but here, time is woven into most things. The story starts with this hook, a mystery, otherworldly creatures, danger, reality itself being distorted. But the reason all these magic elements work is because the game uses them sparingly. You still have to go to school all day. And the school mechanics aren't that deep. That's fine. They're these simple choices. Read a book or talk to your friends. And eventually they escalate. Study for finals, or get that sweet love confession from your buddy Junpei. Not only is this a good way to generate suspense in the moment-to-moment gameplay, but it naturally leads to thoughts about the long-term gameplay. When I play an RPG with no calendar, I get complacent. Yeah, your problems are very important. Just let me finish all 12 of my quest firsts, then I'll be so rich that I can just pay the final boss to leave you alone. Persona 3's tone is a lot. It uses certain imagery for shock value, and for some people that's too much. But for those who make it past the initial edginess, there is something more going on here. I personally heard the entire plot of this game before I played it, but actually reaching the ending felt different than knowing about it. I'll discuss it now, so skip ahead this many seconds if you want to. The player character dies is a hard sell. Even if it's portrayed heroically, it tends to frustrate players who make their own decisions and invest in the game world. That same logic drives some players to quit this game when their party members act unruly and get everyone killed. But the game was made this way on purpose. Earlier games let players control the experience more precisely. So why does the game limit players in this way? All the elements are woven together into the final scene. The game begins with the first day of school, and it ends with graduation. Its party members all share a definitive last moment together. These characters were flawed, not in cute or sympathetic ways, but in frustrating ways. These kids are antagonistic in the early game, but then they change. Their moments of growth are cliches, realizations that have been done in countless young adult media before. But they had to fail and suffer again and again to reach this day. Their graduation feels earned because they started from a place of dysfunction and failure and conflict, only to reach their ultimate goal against odds that were not only difficult but unfair in a story sense and a video game sense. But still, through persistence, the day is won. And the final words come from this character. Aigis is pure wish fulfillment. She's a unique, courageous, powerful character who loves you unconditionally. But until this moment, she struggled to feel anything. She was detached from time. Whether players took 500 hours to reach the endgame or aced the game with perfect social links and blazing speed, the game ends for everyone. In a way, all of our moments are taken away from us in this ending, and we're forced to decide what we'll do next.
I hated this place when I first came to Inaba. You can tell how small the town is from up here. But looking at it now, it's a nice town.
All things eventually come to an end. Every living thing will one day disappear. Only by accepting this can one discover what they truly want.
I want to tell Saki-senpai something. That what's important isn't where you are. This town I hated so much, now I love it. There's still nothing here, but I have family and friends and you.
You don't have to save the world to find meaning in life. Sometimes, all you need is something simple, like someone to take care of.